What's going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Today we have got to talk about some gaming news concerning Gran Turismo 7, whose servers have been down now for, from what I can tell, at least 24 hours consecutively following a botched patch. And even though you should technically be able to access the single player of the game, the always online nature of Gran Turismo 7, with less than a month after its release, has already reared its ugly head, and players are not happy. On top of that, with this new update, what a lot of players were already complaining about, the grind of the game, which honestly, in its original state, I didn't really have a big problem with the payouts and all that stuff and unlocking the cars. I was actually enjoying it quite a bit. But now they've actually made it worse by reducing some of those payouts, which will make the grind in the game even worse, which is just not okay. Also, we got our first look at some gameplay from Hogwarts Legacy, which will be coming out later this year, which they've now confirmed from Warner and Avalanche Studios. So let's get fired right into the news. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you can save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for just $19.50, and then you can unlock the prestigious dark mode on Windows 10 and take advantage of that. I couldn't live without it. And if you shoot over there right now, you could save 25% off. Hit the buy now button and then put in my code JP25 at checkout. I'll walk you guys through the process right now so you can see how much money we're saving and how to go ahead and install this on your Windows 10 PC. That brings our price down to $14.62, total of savings of almost $5 using that JP25 code, which will work for any software products over there. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on Submit Order and select your payment mode of choice, which me personally is PayPal, and then I'll go ahead and complete the checkout by clicking on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on change your product key or unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. First up, we got to talk about Gran Turismo 7. I covered this game when it came out a couple of weeks ago, and I have enjoyed the game immensely. I honestly was a little bit on the fence about picking this game up because I don't really play a lot of racing games, but I have a lot of nostalgia for the older Gran Turismo titles back on the PS2, PS3. Played a lot of it back when I was a kid, and this was kind of a return to form for the franchise for me. The gameplay is fantastic. I was actually enjoying the progression, and I did see a lot of people out there complaining about the grind of the game and the microtransactions, which, let's call it what it is. They're not really microtransactions anymore when they're charging what they're charging and what you're really getting for it in return. Someone shouldn't have to go shell out $40 of real-world currency to get an in-game car, even though you can unlock it on your own, which is really the route I would go with the original payout system. We'll get into that in a minute, but really the main issue that we got to talk about here today is the always online nature of Gran Turismo 7. Even for the single player, this game requires you to always have an online connection. I've even had issues where I finished a race and I should have gotten a payout or something, but for whatever reason, they had a server disconnect. My Wi-Fi didn't go down or anything like that. There was just a very brief blip in a server disconnect, and then I didn't get the progress for the race, I didn't get the payout, and I had to restart and redo the race all over again, and that had happened to me a few times, and I was kind of getting annoyed with it, but it wasn't happening frequently enough where I was going to call complete foul on it, even though I don't like the fact that it has to be always online, even for the single-player portion of the game, which I feel like is the primary focus, at least for me. That might be different for other people out there. But since the update came out yesterday, 1.07, they had some issues with that update, and since then, basically the servers have been offline. Now you're just greeted with a GT spinning circle on the screen infinitely, and the game never loads in, and you get an error screen that kind of pops up when you try to play Gran Turismo 7 even for the single player. And prior to the release, the developers had even assured people that if you had I believe it was only for disc copies of the game, but if you had a disc copy of the game, you would still be able to access the arcade mode and probably not earn credits, I would assume, from that, because really the always online thing, I can only think is a thing because of how the credits that you unlock through playing the game can also be purchased from the online store for an exorbitant amount of money, which is another thing a lot of people have complained about lately. So the always online thing totally sucks, and now that they're going to make this grind even worse is pretty appalling, honestly, and seemingly there's no end in sight for when this game's going to be back online, although knowing my luck, by the time I post this video, the game will probably already be back online. But still, the game being down for 24 hours is unacceptable and completely unnecessary, in my personal opinion, other than the fact that they want to milk people for microtransactions. And seeing that with this update, they've actually reduced the payouts, kind of ties even into more of that, is that maybe, even though there were a vocal minority sort of complaining about the grind of this game, which I think has always been the Gran Turismo, honestly, even the older games which never had microtransactions or ways to buy credits in the game, they were always a little bit of a grind, but that's sort of what made Gran Turismo in a lot of ways. And, having a certain goal for a certain car you wanted to get, and then, figuring out what race you can do maybe several times in a row in order to get enough money to buy those cars, always was kind of part of the Gran Turismo experience historically. So I never really had an issue with the payouts initially, although I know I might not be in the majority on that. But now, with this latest update, they have reduced the payouts in a lot of the races, actually increased a couple of them, but not that much. So these first two World Touring races, which should pay out more, honestly, because you usually have to do 2 or 3 consecutive races in order to get these payouts. So the payouts actually increased quite a bit, from 5,000 up to 70,000. That could be a typo. It could have been meant to be 50,000 to 70, because 5,000 sounds kind of low for that. But many of the other races have been decreased, 50,000 down to 30,000 for the World Rally Challenge, 65,000 down to 30,000. This one was 65,000 credits reduced to 40, and so on and so forth down the list. All the rest of these, from what I can see, all seem to be reductions in the payouts, some of them by as much as half of what they were initially already paying out in the game, which is definitely not going to buy any favor with the community. And this is also something that I feel like Sony in the past has kind of been good about avoiding, especially with their first-party titles. You think of things like God of War, that didn't have any microtransactions built into the game. It's just a solid single-player game that shipped in a very polished state. And traditionally, I feel like Sony's first-party titles have always been exceptional at this, as they are first-party titles, and it shouldn't be made to feel like you're paying $70 for a game, and then you're getting what some people could argue is a free-to-play type experience with the grind for the payouts and all of that stuff. And even if you want to get like some cars in the game that could be a few million credits, you may have to shell out as much as $20-$40 to get the amount of credits that you would need to be able to get those vehicles, which nobody should have to do. And there definitely shouldn't be, or also should not be, cars that are exclusive to like a secondary currency, so they definitely shouldn't be doing that either. I would hate to see them have 2 different forms of currency, and then certain cars you can only buy with the real world currency. That would be like the even scummier like EA type of thing to do. So they've sort of hit like a middle ground there, but it's still unacceptable, and people were already upset about the grind of the game, and now you're going to go and make it worse? Like, how do you think that's going to buy you any favor in the community? The reviews for the game were overwhelmingly positive. Most people are pleased with the overall presentation and the handling, the cars, all that's like it's all really good. It's just the grind aspect of it that a lot of people are upset with, and the always online aspect. And now, in the span of 24 hours, you got people getting more upset that you're reducing payouts, and the always online thing has already caused an issue where players can't get online for even up to 24 hours or more, even to just play arcade races, which is ridiculous. So let me know what you think down in the comments below on this. I really wish they would roll back the always online component, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case. But they should also increase the payouts probably to be more in line with what they've had in games past, because you can't, like Gran Turismo Sport, and you can't, like in this game, you can't sell cars. Like if you unlock a car that you really don't really want, You can't sell it, or even if you get duplicates of a car, which could be a possibility, all you can do is remove the duplicate car from your garage, and you don't get anything in return for it. It would be nice if you could actually race for, cars and then sell off the ones maybe you don't want. But yeah, that's just not a thing in this game, which was a way a lot of people made money in previous titles. So obviously it seems like Polyphony and Sony have decided to go the route of, let's try to milk our fans for as much money as possible, while this game is going to probably be around for quite a while, as they usually have several years in between releasing Gran Turismo games, and they're hoping this one can be around for a long time and selling a lot of those credits, and by making the grind worse and worse and worse. Next up, I wanted to quickly talk about Hogwarts Legacy, which now we know is going to be releasing later this year. We don't have a firm release date. They've just said holiday 2022, which is going to be a single-player only, seems like sort of like an action RPG. I actually even think there's like some elements of this, probably just because it's set at Hogwarts in a school environment, but it almost reminds me of Rockstar's Bully, in just a few little ways. I know that the overall tone of the game is going to be nothing like Bully, but kind of how you are sort of leveling up and starting out as a new student and progressing, through, Hogwarts and stuff like that, and trying to become a wizard or a witch. So those kind of elements are pretty cool, but it is going to be single player only, no cooperative play, which would have been kind of cool if they were able to include something like that. But then that might have made it more like an MMO, which I might not have enjoyed as much. And then also, no microtransactions were confirmed for this game, which is nice, especially with Warner Brothers and their track record with the Middle-earth game. The last Middle-earth game was Shadow of War, I think it was the second one. That had tons of microtransactions, so it's nice that they have confirmed already there's not going to be that in this game, and it's just going to be a solid, hopefully solid, single-player, story-driven action RPG set in the world of Harry Potter, which, they've had the movie tie-in games in the past, and there's been the Lego games. The Lego games were pretty decent. But this seems to be the most fleshed out, Harry Potter world game that we have seen to date. And so far, I'm very impressed with the visuals of the game. I think it looks incredible. A lot of the environments are super detailed throughout Hogwarts. So being able to get to explore around Hogwarts in what I'm hoping is a very faithful recreation of the way that it was designed in the films and explained in the books, which it kind of seems to be. I'm really excited about this game, and thankfully it's going to be coming out on PC as well as consoles. I believe it's on last gen as well as the new current gen consoles. And overall, visuals look really good on it. I hope the gameplay ends up, living up to how I'm hyped up for this game now after seeing this 14-minute plus gameplay trailer. I'll have links to sources down below. But we haven't really seen a whole lot about this game up until now. So this is definitely the most in-depth look that we've gotten to see at what we're should be expecting from the Hogwarts Legacy game when it releases later this year. But so far, from what I'm seeing, it looks really good, and I hope that the gameplay does hold up. But let me know down in the comments below what you think about Hogwarts Legacy coming to PC and consoles later this year. And yeah, God, I'm watching this trailer back now as I'm talking about it, and the visuals are stunning. There's so much detail in the world, and I just hope that the performance is solid. I'd love to actually just sit back and relax and kind of play this on my couch on PS5, but I have some doubts as to what the frame rate and resolution will be, and if it'll look as good as it does in this trailer, which does look like 30 frames per second. Some of the frame rate did not look great in the trailer, which I watched all 14 minutes of. Definitely did see some drops there, but obviously this is early code, and I would have to assume it's running on one of the next-gen consoles, although it could be PC. If this is running on next-gen consoles, though, visually speaking, they've done an incredible job there, so I definitely want to see what the performance is going to be like for PS5. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day and had a good St. Patrick's Day yesterday, and I will catch you next time for another video. Ciao.